Big thanks for joining, and a whole lot has been said in the direction of making sure we get it right as a people democratically. And for us to do that, it means that we must make sure we set machineries in position to do that. And political parties basically are seen as parties that help to throw up leaders in governance. And looking at that, we can but take a retrospect of what transpired as regards delegates, their roles, their influence, and of course their limitations, and what part of the Constitution that also spells out the limitations of the delegates in the operations of the parties. And we're going to be looking in this direction as I'm being joined here in the studio with a public affairs analyst, the senior pastor of Sword of Liberation Bible Church, Bishop Austin Igbasan. Thanks for coming, Bishop.
Thank you.
And next to Bishop Austin Igbasan is an author and a public affairs analyst, Frank Ehiosun. Thanks for being here.
Very pleasure.
And of course, I'm going to be joined via Zoom by a legal practitioner, Matthew Ederese. If I can get you, Matthew Ederese. Good morning to you, Matthew. Well, that was Matthew Ederese, a legal practitioner, and we're going to be establishing a link with him and also get his comments in this direction. There's been a whole lot. Let me quickly start with the public affairs analyst, Frank Ehiosun. There's been a whole lot that transpired even past week, over the ruling of the Federal High Court. And there has been this challenge of political party delegates. And most times we talk about, internal democracy that seems not to be present in political parties, and complaints, from the delegates. All of these show that, we need to look at it critically on the stability or the roles of political party delegates in parties. Now, what do you make of the delegates? What influence could you say they have or they play in political parties?
Yeah. Like the name goes, they are delegates. Their responsibilities comes with that title. They didn't become delegates by falling from the sky. They became delegates through a process. Different parties have defined processes by which they get delegates at different levels. They could talk about maybe ward delegate, local government delegates. They will have state delegates, national delegates, depending on the category of the election.
Okay.
Of the election or the kind of activity that they're about. Talking about the concept from the standpoint of how it is in Nigeria presently, I think it's what it is. It's what it is in the sense that, we are not where we ought to be, but we wouldn't live where we are. Rather, we'll make progress from that point. In the sense that we don't deny where we are. We'll rather make progress from that point. So I think that if I want to hit the nail on the head from the arrow you did put forward quite concerning a judgment so-called.
Okay, well, but yes, we're going to be doing that. But I want to see...
No, it's just for the sake of reference. Okay. I'm not saying it. I think it's still not very different. Talking about the purport.
Okay.
That they are delegates, they emerge by whatever process, even if there are contentions as to who delegates are, who delegates aren't, because they are supposed to be in political parties. And if you are a delegate within the purview of a certain political party, the party is supposed to be, in quotes, the house that has the mantle to identify you as one of theirs in terms of the responsibility that you are meant to carry out as a delegate. But it's a mixed pot of soup.
Okay, I asked you that in order to ask you the second question. Because if you say we have political party delegates, it means that they must be participating in the election process that will throw out the candidate of the party. At what point can such delegates be excused?
Your question is a bit vague. Vague in the sense that it's not tied to a specific. Because there are multiple possibilities. There could be infractions in 10, 15, 20, even more ways And such stuff would normally be defined by the parties in question. So it would be a trip in the desert of no direction for me to just come by some assumptions that this is the point at which a delegate is either here or there.
Okay.
I have to go by such viewpoints based on specifics as it relates to the extent to which I'm informed about the circumstance and possibly the rules of the party or the organization that is involved. That's why I said it's a little vague. But if you want me to chart a course on my own, in terms of giving this question a peculiar direction based on recent events, I could do that. Especially with reference to the one in the news of late, it pertains to the PDP specifically, the judgment from the Abuja court that pertains to delegates. In fact, in Nigeria presently, that is the prevalent discourse that pertains to delegates being the center point. So that's why I said, you didn't give me that specific, but I took it because that's the only thing available presently.
Okay.
Now, coming from that line of discourse, wearing the garb of an independent observer, and information is not gotten from dreams, even if people could get theirs on such note, that is personal, because it cannot be subject to scientific, as in processes of verification. But we get information from print, electronic media, from certified authorities, from people we interface with. So as far as it has to do with this PDP delegates, the primaries, from all that has been put forward in the past about 5 or 6 months, from the time the issue ensued, there are some inherent contradictions I personally don't quite construe. I say that for a reason. Because in talking about delegates, a delegate would normally have some peculiar confidence because of the sense of entitlement to participate in a process that he or she has been duly elected to participate in. So I now said, when it was affirmed that the court case was instituted as far back as the first week or so of February, almost a fortnight before the primaries of the party, so-called. The primaries was on the 22nd of February. The delegate election was on the 4th of February. And the case was instituted about 4 days after, from what I read in the papers. And like I said, we get information from such platforms. I was interrogating the events in total. I watched the complaints by the candidates, aspirants at that time, especially the 9 who, after the World Congress, protested and to a large extent excluded themselves even from the subsequent one, talking about the local government congress that took place a while after, and the primaries of the party. And I said, how come, by some magic, I never heard the aspirants in their complaints make reference to these wonderful delegates? If they were available as at on the 4th of February, and even 8th of February when the case was filed. And I said, okay, that's another magic comes forth to my mind. The total number of delegates in the state are less than 600, about 500 and, I think about 580 something or 90, thereabout. I said, okay, if these folks are by number 381, going by mathematical estimate, they are more than 2/3 of the total number of delegates in the state. I say, wow, anybody who has these delegates in his kitty won before the primaries. So how come, if it is real as put forth, how come the aspirants wrote petitions? They protested to the National Working Committee of the party at the national level. Check on channels, check TVC, check Arise TV. You hear the discourse that ensued by distinguished aspirants with great capacity. The likes of Anselmo Jeswa, the former Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu, and a few others. I said, okay, before the Congress proper, there was complaint concerning venue. I heard all this from the aspirants in their protests and discussions they had on there and what they wrote in the papers, that they raised eyebrow that the venues for the congresses were controversial, and as stakeholders they were concerned about such line of action. And based on that complaint, the National Working Committee held a meeting and they changed the venues, affirming that the congresses could only be held in certified public places that INEC recognizes. I now said, okay, if the National Working Committee over such a molehill could take a critical action, how come when it pertained to a mountain, these aspirants could not bring forth what they had, which is even evidence that is possibly incontrovertible?
Okay.
So I'm going somewhere. So that's why I say, when I look at the whole issue, I say, did something go amiss somewhere? On national TV, they said, and I quote, that they didn't even get access to how the congresses were going to be conducted. That as aspirants, they were depending on trappings or stuff posted on the internet. So I said, if these guys said they didn't know the detail, even when the Congress was here, they didn't know the process quite. And they said that the first time they had access to documents that reflected the results of the Congress was when they had protested after the primaries. Talking about the Congress, the detail.
Okay. That
the committee gave them a list, and it was signed by just two persons: the chairman of the Congress Legislative Committee, the governor of Enugu State, and one other person. Now, if the aspirants said that they didn't have documents to reflect the detail of what took place from the Congress through the local government Congress through the primaries proper, until they interfaced in the course of their complaint to the appeal panel, how come all of a sudden there is a case going on in court that had been instituted as far back as 8th of February?
Okay, well, that shows that there is a crack, because if you don't have cracks on the walls, reptiles won't pass through.
It's not about showing
exactly what I'm getting at. Without having a picture painted on what transpired a few days back, I just wanted us to look at an X-ray on political party as regards their ability to keep internal democracy on check. And all of this are happening. All of this are happening because that wasn't kept on check.
If you're talking about what you just iterated just now, we can expand on it on and on and on, based on the fundamentals of the practice of democracy. But with the specific that is ongoing, that is why I just tried to highlight this fact. I said I'm talking as an independent observer.
Exactly.
That when somebody had a complaint concerning a molehill, they reached the peak of the party structure, and there was due response. I said, how come when the issue pertained to a mountain, there wasn't similar complaints? And I'm telling you that, check it, Channels TV, Arise TV, it's everywhere. If these same guys, I said, look, if these guys have that list signed by the world returning officers, and they presented it to the appeal panel, that primaries would have been cancelled. The same working committee that mere complaint about venue altered the arrangement would have gone further because of the profundity of the facts in the document. So, as an individual, I have my doubts as to the propriety of the 381 delegates. Because like I said from the outset, if there were 381 delegates that these guys could have, they wouldn't have boycotted the process, because that is already more than 2/3 of the total number of delegates in the state, from the standpoint of the folks who have participated in the PT process. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, okay, let me leave for now because I don't want to...
Let's get back to you, Bishop Austin Igbasa. You all heard about what played out, and let's use that as a case study and see what it is like when delegates or political parties are excluded from an election. Well, that's a sign that there seem to be issues with internal democracy of such parties. I want you to hit the ground running on that.
Well, delegates are supposed to be member of the political party. To every person called delegate, the person must be a bona fide member of a political party. Then also, secondly, before somebody will become a delegate, we also know that you cannot just, everybody in the party cannot be a delegate, in as much as you have the right to be chosen to be a delegate. Delegates are chosen by party hierarchy, and there are interests before you are choosing to be a delegate. And if you look back, you see that a lot of people do a lot of things to be able to become a delegate of a political party, in the sense that they know that a lot of benefits, a lot of things are attached, and as a delegate you have power to decide who become the aspirant. As a delegate of a party, you cannot just come from the blues. You must have been chosen as a party faithful, and also by the interests that are available. When I mean interest, I'm talking about the people, the party hierarchy. So they don't normally pick people who would be an opposition to them. So as a delegate, it is you are the mercy of whosoever is in charge of the party.
Okay.
And that's why there is nobody in any political party that will go and select some set of people who are his own enemy to be a delegate. And that's why you see that people that are in power, they do everything within their power to make sure that the issue of delegate comes from them. The list comes from them. Because if you are sitting in position of authority and you don't determine you become a delegate for an election, either election you are participating, maybe as a returning governor for second time, or you are projecting somebody. So you must be interested in delegates. So the issue of delegate is that the man or the woman must be a part of the party, a bona fide member of the party, and also the interest of the party hierarchy determines who become a delegate. Nobody in position of power, either wanting to run again or not project somebody, we want to put somebody you cannot trust as a delegate that will vote for your choice. that is the truth. It may not be a naked truth, it's a pampered truth, but that is the truth. There is nobody. That's why you see that people do everything to become delegate, because we know some people bought house through being a delegate of a party in the presidential election. We knew how people share dollars and people are trying. Some people use pounds. So if you are not, some people can't delegate somewhere so that somebody else will not go and topple what they have given to them. That shows you the power. Delegates are like a midwife. Now, delegate is like a priest who conducts a wedding. Even if the husband and wife are there in church, if the priest to conduct the wedding is not there, the wedding is not complete, because they can't join. If they can join themselves, they won't come to church. So the power of delegate is very strong. And I think that each political party have their constitution that determine internal democracy. And I think the court also respect the internal democracy or the law that govern each party. That is why there is no court that will give a judgment that is against the constitution of that party that determines how the internal democracy is being practiced in that particular party. Okay. And I tell you that the issue of delegate is very, very important. And when you talk about the limitation of a delegate, their limitation is that at the end of the whole event of primary, their job terminates from there. Okay. But they are very, very powerful. And I think that there is no court that will go against the constitution of a particular party that determines how their internal democracy is being run. That's why you start, even when judges give judgment, they say this is party affairs, and it must go through how the party designed that they want to be run. If we look at all the political party in Edo State today, there is no party that does not have issue with their primary. There is no party, I'm talking about the big parties now. There is no one that does not have issues with their primary. But eventually, if you're going to talk of PDP have issue. If you're going to talk of APC, an election was conducted, a winner came up. At the end of the day, the winner today becomes the deputy governor aspirant. Now, the issue of PDP also, the PDP have issue with the powers that control the party and the legacy PDP. So that is the issue of Labour Party. We saw the issue of the National Party. So if you're going to talk about the three major parties, there is no one of them that have a drive-through primary. All their primary can be contested in court. And if people begin to pitch loophole, there may be loophole in the case. But as far as political party is concerned, delegates are powerful. Okay. And nobody control a party that will want to put his enemy as a delegate.
Thank you, Bishop Austin Egbasa. Now, let's look at the aspect of the 378 political party delegates of the ruling party, PDP, in Edo State, that got to the courts for the aspect of them being excluded from the party primaries. Now, looking at that as a case study for political parties generally, what do you see as should be done to strengthen internal democracy in political parties?
What needs to be done is not rocket science. It's a work in progress, in my opinion. But, you know, in Nigeria, now talking generally, before I come specifically to there are actually 381. You know, three
all right.
filed the case in court.
All right, I'll be coming back to you. I'll be coming back to you, but let's quickly take a short break, after which we'll continue with this conversation.